people have come together and prayed for revival. And as I felt God was saying this, I thought, well, how does it happen, God? You know, I feel so far away from revival myself. I think, God, how will it happen? What on earth will you do? And I felt God saying, look, revival does not just happen. It doesn't sort of just happen. Whenever you look at historical revivals or moves of God that have been extraordinary, there is always a preparation time. There is always, in one sense, an order of how God works. There are principles. You know, they're not all the same, but there are principles. And this chapter in Exodus 33 gives us, I think, these principles which we need to be aware of and to look to. You know the context. Moses had been up the mountain and the Israelites had done a hideous thing. They had made the golden calf, and ultimately they had said, this is the God that brought us out of Egypt. A great apostasy. But when they heard that God would not go with them, they were mortified. And that, you know, the first key, as we've said, in revival is always repentance. They turned back to God. They shed all the gold and whatever, you know the story, and they repented. And the classical verse that we've always sort of said is, if my people will humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways, right? Repentance is always the first principle in revival. A thirst for God, and it's not remorse, it's deep conviction of repentance. And that's exactly what they had. That's always the first sign. And we've got to look at ourselves and say, are we humble before God? Is he speaking to us, refining us, and speaking about repentance and about our life? I believe he is at this time. I believe he's doing things within our hearts where we're repenting and turning and turning to God. It's a good sign. But then there is also a principle in all revival, that there is prayer. Prayer is a key element that always precedes revival. And in this chapter, we see three stages of revival, of prayer in revival times. And let me talk you through them. The first we get is in verses 7 to 11. And it's a strange thing. It talks about Moses taking the tent of the meeting outside of the camp. Right? Now, this isn't the tent that Moses had the instructions to build, that was the precursor to the temple. This was just a meeting place that they had in the middle of the camp where you just met with God. Now it says, after they repented, after they turned, he took the tent outside of the camp. And it says that those who with Moses wanted to seek God went outside the encampment to seek God. In all revivals that I know of, revival has started in unusual places, in one sense outside the full vicinity of the church. It's always in little houses. It's always old women or men and women in their closets, or single people seeking after God outside, in one sense, of the main context of the orthodoxy of the church. And I thought, well, God, What are you doing and saying to us at the church at this time when we can't meet? He's saying, go outside outside of the camp. I'm giving you time to seek me. But it wasn't everybody. It wasn't everybody who went there. Revival always starts with one or two or a small group. Is it you? Are you feeling this? Or which one of us is going to be that person that starts revival? That's what it's saying. It wasn't the whole church. It was just a few people feeling the passion and the burden of God that went outside. And when Moses went outside and met with God, the cloud came down. It always happens in revival. And I was just thinking, that's what God's speaking to the church now. It's an opportunity for small groups of men and women with passion to meet outside of just the building. Not that the building's wrong. Don't hear me wrongly. It's just the way God prepares for revival. That's what he's doing. Why we can't meet. He's wanting people outside the camp, seeking after God, individually and corporately. And that's why, in one sense, we're having 2 or 3 weeks off in August. Not only to have a break, but it's to go outside the camp. We're not going to organize anything. Moses didn't organize anything. He just took himself and said, you want to come with me? Come with me. I'm not organizing a meeting. And those that wanted to seek God met. And that's what we want to do in these 2 or 3 weeks. We're not going to organize anything. We're simply going to say, meet outside the camp. Meet with your friends and your colleagues and your neighbors, whoever it is, and say, do you want to come with me in this short period to seek God and to call upon him? And what happened is the cloud came down and they met with God. It always happens in revival. When these individuals go outside the camp and they start praying and seeking God with others, the cloud comes down. And did you notice those that didn't go to the meetings, they were outside their little houses and they saw what's going on. They said something's happening with those people. And they began to get involved. That's the way revival starts. It's never in big meetings. Never in big meetings. It's never happened. Revival's never happened in a big meeting. It's always started in the ones or twos. And then when this happened, Moses goes back to the camp and tells them what's happened. I really believe that's what God's giving us, an opportunity in the church to meet in small groups. Those that want to seek after God really deeply for this move of God and for the cloud to come down upon it. Is it you? Is it you? It always is the nobodies. It's the revival always starts with no one who's never heard of them. Never heard of them. They become famous later, but it's always the nobodies. That's the way God works. And even more so now. And then I'm not going to go on for too long because I'm really exercised and excited by this. And then in verses 12 to 17, they prayed. Moses has gone back and, but he comes back because he knows there's more. He knows there's much more to have of God. And he asked God, come and visit me. Come and be with me. Come and assure me. He says, I found favor with you, I know, but show me that you showed me favor. He needs more assurance. And he says, God, you've got to give me power. Because if we're to take the land. We need the power of God. There are a multitude of problems. You know, just think about it, folks. Look, if we've got this vision of 200 square miles of villages and villages, we need the power of God. We need God to come down and visit us. We need to see it. He's saying, look, unless you show your power, how will they know we're any different to any other of the nations? We need God to actually do that. So he goes back and prays for this. And then the final bit in this three-part cycle of prayer revival is from 18 onwards, where he simply says, Lord, show me your glory. Show me your glory. You know, this is a man who previously God said, I speak to him as a friend, but he knows there's much more. As I look upon you, many of you, like me, have been Christians for a long time. My heart now is, God, I want to see your glory. I need to see your glory. And the most wonderful thing is God covers him with his hand, puts him in a cleft. It's a wonderful picture of Jesus. Puts him in a cleft and lets him see his glory. God is calling us into revival. I really believe it. And this time where we can't meet is a time where he's saying, get outside the camp. Call, get close to your friends, get close to your connect group. Don't just have a coffee. Seek me, pray earnestly for the power of God to come down upon you in your little groups. And I'm charging us, let's be the ones that initiate revival. Let God come down upon us. It's that exciting, folks. I know there's always the day to day. I sort of think, God, how is this going to happen? I feel so mundane. You know, I get up and I work and whatever. But all the people in past revivals have had a hunger and a thirst for more of God. And they've sought him, and he's always honoured them. I see little parts of this happening now within us. I see the passion that there is now on a Monday in the prayer meeting, people getting passionate, feeling the heart of God. I see 2 or 3 new songs coming up from prayer meetings and people. There are little signs where God's speaking. So I really just wanted to share my heart of what I feel God's saying, and I pick it up a little bit on Sunday, because it's not only prayer, there are other things that we need to do. And I'll say a little bit about that on Sunday. All right.